Also, I expect silence from the crowd if you want to cheer, leave the cheering to a minimum, and so that the judges can listen to all the speeches properly. And with that, I will start. No, the youngest one in the family is Let's start. Yeah.
Now, the inherent problem with the fashion and beauty industry is that the ones who decide what is right or what is appropriate or what is accepted or what is glorified is not the consumers in the first place, right? It's the corporations, the money-driven corporations, and the media that primarily decides this. The problem with this is completely and directly associated with self-expression is that it's not really self-expression at the end of the day, right? It is expression that is determined by these corporations, by a corporation that's very much formulated by the patriarchy in the first place, that tells you how you should be expressing yourself. The phrase gendered self-expression itself is a paradox. Because at the end of the day, when you're gendering expression, it is no longer self-expression, right? It is an expression that society tells you need to opt in because of the gender that you're identifying as, right? We tell you that the moment the media dictates your concept of beauty, it becomes very Eurocentric, and it's engineered especially for this woman or anyone in any gender. It's engineered for them to feel like they must opt into it. There's an imposition by society in the first place, right? We tell you it's not their own inherent choice. At the end of the day, when your family is telling you that as a boy, you can't hold the idea of putting nail polish on is completely unacceptable. The idea of wearing clothes is completely unacceptable. You don't completely imposed on you by society, whether it be your family, your friends, the TV shows that you watch. At the end of the day, that's how your brain becomes formulated, right? And we tell you that is problematic in the first place. Let's move on to talking about the whole concept of gender in the first place, right? Understand that gender and sex are two very different things. And because gender and self-expression in terms of beauty and fashion exist, what you do is you opt into the existence of the gender binary, right? You tell people that males pursue this kind of fashion trend and females pursue this kind of fashion trend. And there's no in between, there's no other option, right? You tell that these are your two options and you have to be preferring one of them. What happens is your preference itself becomes artificial, right? The value of your choice becomes limited and undermined, right? The value of your choice is always under scrutiny the moment that this conflict. In an ideal world, gender itself wouldn't exist. And therefore, from psychology, we tell you that we, as this house, believes in a world that does not opt into this existing narrative of gender and expression of gender, right? We believe in a world where you do not feed into this problematic narrative, right? We tell you that at the end of the day, the problems that you face regarding femininity versus masculinity. Yes?
Absolutely all preferences that humans have ever had have been derived from society that exists and came before. As long as there's liberty to pick and choose, why is there a problem?
Honestly, this is more problematic when you bring gender into this because the whole concept of femininity and masculinity itself is toxic in terms of gender identity, right? We tell you that the moment someone feels they're not feminine enough, and the moment that you're using fashion and beauty to enhance this vulnerability that they already feel, you're taking advantage of a very vulnerable sense of self, right? It's the moment that you tell someone that you're not masculine enough because you want to put makeup on, and that's when you impose these expectations. And this goes beyond just telling someone what to prefer or what to choose, right? Because when it comes to self-identity, in a world that already abuses you for choosing something out of the binary, you're creating a very toxic environment for them. You have to understand who decides this and the actual consequences it has on the consumers of these beauty products, right? We also tell you that it is extremely problematic when you demean the value of gender-related issues to the materialistic and superficial, right? Why is that? Because the moment that the discourse places so much importance on what kind of beauty products you're using as a female or a male, you dilute the rest of the issues that you have. For example, kind of identity threats you're facing, right? A teenage trans person in Bangladesh will never be allowed to even consider that gender-based identity as a possibility, because whenever he thinks about gender, the only thing his family and friends and the TV talks about is, as a boy, should you wear makeup, or is that something that only exclusively girls should do, right? You dumb it down and you oversimplify gender into the most superficial layer possible, right? This is extremely problematic because it prioritizes fussing about whether or not a man can wear a dress, fussing whether or not a female is bound to put on makeup whenever she goes to like a wedding, and it reprioritizes every other gender-related issue, right? I can tell you that the reason that cross-dressers or transgenders are abused on the most basic level is because the concept of this person should not be wearing this kind of dress exists in the first place, right? And if this concept never existed, this level of abuse would not have existed either, right? Because the concept of gender self-expression exists, it's the reason that certain behaviors are seen as normal, right? It's the reason that a large part of society tells you that as a male wearing heels is abnormal, right? If that concept never existed, the amount of crisis that cross-dressers or transgender would be facing, especially in conservative societies as well as we're used to, would automatically decrease a great deal, right? We tell you that the moment that these ridiculous discourses dominate the discourse, you take away the spotlight from the more important levels of discourse that need to exist for people identifying outside of gender binary to be able to integrate into society, right? So the reason that you tend to think like this is because the narrative tells you that you must do so, and that outside very strongly oppose this narrative, right? We tell you that. So what do you think should look like if we remove the element? So we tell that self-expression should exist, should look like something that you want to do, right? You should be wanting to wear makeup, not because your family tells you as a feminine girl you must do so, but simply because you enjoy wearing makeup, right? You should also, on the other hand, be allowed to wear makeup, even if your family tells you as a male you cannot do that, right? We tell that that is the whole point of self-expression, is to feel comfortable in the way that you conduct yourself with other people. And the moment that you're telling someone, dictating how and when that should happen, is going to take away the element of self-expression. That is not going to look like, right? So to summarize what we told you that the creators and the manufacturers of the beauty industry itself are not the consumers who are being affected by it. And we told that as a result of manufacturer choice through the media and through agencies, that should never be imposed upon, right? We tell you that the concept of gender exists and is problematic in this world, and things like gender self-expression feeds into that narrative, right? We also, third level, tell you that that you dilute gender issues into just superficial self-expression and makeup and beauty and fashion, right? That's the moment you take away the spotlight from more important layers of the discourse that need to exist in order for the people in gender, the gray areas of gender, identify as part of society and function normally, right? Having said that, we're extremely proud of
You're here.
Thank the Prime Minister's speech. Now may I call upon the leader of opposition to begin.
Hello. Is it audible?
Yeah, but like, you know, oh dear, I want them to do well as well. You know? It's a debate, anything can happen, we don't know what happens until it at least you shouldn't have predisposed. I feel like they're like putting lights too much on Aaqib like for a barberton light flash looks Aaqib her choking lights. Like it's not fair.
It wasn't fair. It was very distracting. The goal of OO today is to prove to you that gender is possibly the least harmful way to self-express yourself. As in, there are worse ways that you can probably include elements of gender, and where you can discriminate individuals and based on those particular elements. We think that we have two constructives in this case. One is to tell you how individuals and how trans individuals are essentially normalized through the process of gender choosing self-expression, but rather also to tell you why the harms in and of itself are significantly more if we remove the element of gender from this particular process. So first, let's understand that ladies and gentlemen, that there are certain issues with side propositions case. Because they come to tell you that, you know what, this idea or this form of gender is imposed upon people. And we're completely fine with that. But the problem is, ladies and gentlemen, that they don't give you any other metric by which that these tools should be essentially judged by. That means that if I am essentially wearing, or if I am not wearing heels, or if I'm wearing tuxedos, then what am I as an individual? Am I feminine or am I masculine? Is something that's uneasy to understand. We think, ladies and gentlemen, that has implications, right? We think that this differentiation is important to be made. Why is that the case? Because let's understand, ladies and gentlemen, that I as an individual may express myself in a visible form. That means whether or not I am somebody who leans towards the masculine side or leans towards the feminine side is something that I get to decide on my own case. But if I, as an individual, don't make it visible enough, that it might be stereotypical to some other individuals. By that we mean that in and of itself, it has certain implications. So first, let's analyze why that is something that has an economic or such an economic benefit the moment we include gender, the element of gender, into this particular tool. So first, let's understand how essentially the markets and capitalism operates. Because it's recognized that markets and capitalism has only one goal from day one, that it only seeks to reap the profits of the people. We think that in and of itself means that the fashion industry operates in the same way. We think the fashion industry is characterized in the 21st century as giving options to as many people as possible. That means that you only don't make clothes that are masculine for men, or you don't make clothes that are feminine for women. We think that skirts are essentially sold for men as well. We think women are individuals who get to wear tuxedos in this 21st century. We think that this kind of capitalism, pink capitalism, exists to begin with. Therefore, we believe that this pink capitalism is dependent upon the fashion choices and the trends of this target group, that is the LGBTQI. The problem being, ladies and gentlemen, is that the moment we remove this element of gender, is when we remove the concept of normalization to exist. How does that happen? So imagine a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old is seeing an ad of a particular trans woman being featured, right? It is seeing an ad of a gay couple buying clothes for their baby. It is seeing a trans woman being used as a makeup model in Vogue. We think that this has certain implications. One is that this individual, this 7-year-old kid, then relates these models that he sees on the internet, on the TV, with their parents, right? So I, as an individual, if I, as a 7-year-old, ever saw a gay couple buying clothes for their baby, I would think that my parents did the same for my siblings. If I ever saw, as a boy, that a gay man is dressing up as a model for Vogue, I would think that I'd want to do the same thing to begin with. This grassroots level normalization is important, because let's understand that LGBTQI is a very controversial topic. That means that most of the time, people's opinions on this idea, or at least adults' opinions on this idea, have solidified to begin with. But it's the youth and it's the children whose ideas need to be changed, right? We think that is important that we target these anyways. But secondly, and more importantly, we think gender too is also a way to understand that femininity and masculinity are not mutually exclusive. That means that you as an individual, if you think that femininity and masculinity exist on either ends of the spectrum, you are likely to be brought up in a world where you don't think that gender truths exist. But the moment you have makeup, and the moment you see a guy both wearing makeup and both wearing sneakers, we think that most individuals would induce an idea that you can be feminine and you can be masculine. You don't essentially have to be somebody anything more than that. That is something we believe is a significant impact and is important. But secondly, and more importantly, we think that there are worse ways to categorize individuals as either masculine or either feminine. Why? How? What are tools in this case? We think that those are tools ranging from individuals' career choices. These are tools ranging from individuals' mindsets, from even minute things to individuals' handwritings, etc. Why is this so particularly bad? Because understand, ladies and gentlemen, that fashion and beauty are absolutely free choices of individuals. That means that this freedom of choice exists on that spectrum. But the problem then becomes is the moment you start judging people by their career choices, the moment you start judging people by the choices they make in life, by the fields they choose to study in, you categorize them in worse ways. That means that you are likely to think that women do not deserve to work in engineering sectors. That means you are likely to think that women do not deserve to be scientists, right? That males are individuals who are likely more to be scientists. We think that that is an even worse form of oppression upon these individuals, right? We think that people who are already vulnerable become even more vulnerable in this process. Because at least under our words, maybe even if we buy their argument that sure, maybe they cannot express themselves, maybe boys can't wear heels, but then boys can't end up becoming dancers, boys can't end up becoming ballet artists. We think under our world, even girls who essentially are forced to wear makeup, girls can't end up becoming STEM researchers. We think that that in and of itself is significantly worse. Why? Because in the long run, then these individuals' career choices end up getting significantly narrowed down, right? Because we think that on a comparative basis, that is significantly worse. Because you as an individual will trade off wearing makeup, wearing flamboyant clothing for an ability to be a STEM researcher, right? We think that that distinction is important to make. But finally, we also tell you that fashion and beauty then becomes the least harmful way. Why? Because then it becomes something that's completely up to you. Even if then it is imposed by you, by your parents, even if it is imposed by your society, it doesn't dictate your life choices. It is something that you can end up in the short run. In the long run, how you choose to do so is something that your parents can't end up dictating you in that particular procedure. Therefore, we believe that we can do two things. One is that this form is something that this tool, fashion and beauty is probably the least harmful to gender tool, right? But that means that time proposition will have to prove that why it isn't the least harmful way and why it existing as principle is problematic. We're very, very conscious.
They're here.
Speech nominated all one to the deputy prime minister.
This is on hold again.
Seeing you for a long time.
Is this better?
Yeah.
There are more. Will you tap them? I've got 3. Seater few times more better.
Opening opposition's case is really easy to break. See, the one time I picked up the courage to put on nail polish, the first thing my family did was my aunt asked me, why don't you also wear lipstick? See, this is not rejection or harm. It's just the idea that fashion and beauty is not one thing you do, but a conglomeration of things that come together in bundles and is then imposed upon you. In order to be feminine, you don't need to just wear nail polish, but you must also wear lipstick and all of these other things. And in order to be masculine, you must be so forth and so on. Understand this. Opening opposition's case has no value because there is no authenticity in having so many things pushed on you just because you wanted one part of that expression. It is not self-expression at all, but rather an engineered expression that is catered to you and marketed to you. And even within the woke communities of pro-LGBT and pro-trans people or liberals, you still have the bundles pushed together. There is no authenticity in any of this. So our case is going to cover both the binary and the non-binary. All right, and some integrated rebuttals. See, binary, it was created and influenced by large corporations like L'Oreal, Maybelline, etc., which are essentially based on a Western standard and owned by old white men. Understand that in these scenarios, there's like 45 shades of like makeup for fair-skinned women, but like 5 shades total for like all the other skin pigmentations in the world, where there's like a complete lack of choice. But you know, that's a pretty much first world problem. It gets much worse than that. It's the way that these sort of campaigns, exacerbate problems within women's psychology or create those problems. When you're bombarded from your youth by your worth being defined by your desirability, and your desirability is defined by this standard, where does that leave a lot of women who either do not have those body types, or like ethnic groups where the skin color or the natural body type or the natural hair type is wrong to fit into that standard? This manifests in really, really horrible ways. Like in South Korea, there's like a massive trend and a boom and peer pressure of surgery among teenage girls in order to westernize their features, like make their eyes like wider or change the bone structure of their faces, things like that. Where in India, there's like fetishes for fair skin where girls with darker skin cannot get married, or alternately cannot look up, fit that sort of Bollywood standard that's pushed onto them of fair skin actors, stuff like that. And many of them commit suicide and things like that because of the kind of problems made within their mind. These are what ails or the problems that affect the most privileged of women in this discussion. Let's talk about the trans women and the gender fluid and the trans women of color, etc. Alright, understand that if you're agender or gender fluid, then the problems that really, really matter to you are not necessarily whether you can wear heels or how good you look in heels, but the fact that there is no safe-sex education for like trans people or like gender fluid people. The fact that there is not necessarily availability of gender reassignment surgery or access to hormone therapy. The fact that if you are a trans person, you're much more likely to be kicked out of your house, sit down, Rayaan. You're likely to be forced to become things like sex workers in order to survive because nobody's going to hire you or like let you stay at their place. You're likely to face police brutality while you're homeless or while you're a sex worker, things like that. Understand that when you have people oohing an eye over RuPaul's Drag Race, these are the exact issues that get pushed out of the discourse and do not have the highlight put onto them. Understand these sort of things. The RuPaul's Drag Race looks really good on TV, but it hides the pain of the trans teenager who has no access to hormones, or the colored trans people, or the colored trans sex workers brutalized by the police. Gender fluid teenagers who get bullied by both guys and girls because someday she feels like a guy and someday she feels like a girl, and this is considered opportunism or like attempts to get laid with both sides within the school peer pressure groups and things like that. Understand that in pink capitalism, the crux of opening opposition's case, the discussion ranges from how good they look in heels to can they wear heels or at all or not. Is it safer to wear heels? It doesn't go beyond like skin deep to the issues that really, really matter. The ideas that like there are femme and masculine gaze, and the idea that you have to be a top or bottom is really, really bad. Because guess what? You might want to adopt one part of fashion trend while simultaneously rejecting other parts, but then you're considered incomplete or you're rejected by both sides. Especially if you are seen as requiring validation through your participation in fashion, and that's when the criticism becomes much harsher as to like how horrible your choice in heels was, or your choice of clothes was, or how badly you did your hair. That's horrible. But they did demand of us, and the debate also demands of us as to what's a good form of personal identity. And I'll tell you what. Personality, ideology, shared experiences, cause and effect. It can range from gender related to gender unrelated, but I think the best example I can give you is, for example, a Palestinian freedom fighter with a Palestinian flag in one hand and a rock in another has nothing to do with her beauty or her fashion, but you understand that this is a very attractive person on basis of her position and her ideology and her cause and her passion. Alright, that is the identity that we want to embrace. Alright, what we have here is the idea that you have the world around you to take input from and to give output back into. You have the ability to shape your personality based on the things that you're passionate about, whether it's art, whether it's expression, whether it's politics, or whether it's the struggle of your people and things like that. All of this shapes you into an individual identity, which if removed entirely from your physical appearance and the importance that fashion and beauty give to your physical appearance, will make you either beautiful or ugly to the individuals that hear you talk, or hear your speeches, or see your memes or things like that. That is the authentic identity, which is completely separated from outside, well, not completely separated, but the most separated from outside influences and by old white men with their corporations and things like that. You cannot create that, or you cannot artificially engineer that, and you can't market it through mass media. That's what's beautiful about it. It is a bubble which is your artistic space to create within, and it cannot be intruded on by corporations or by marketing or by peer pressure and things like that. That is where authentic gender expression or authentic expression of yourself becomes super you as opposed to super Maybelline. Alright, so in the end, I think what we've given you here is the ways in which the focus on like beauty and fashion that is entirely externally driven, the ways in which it hurts the most privileged people, and the ways in which it hurts the least privileged people. And we've given you the strongest possible alternative to create the version of yourself that you can love yourself, that you can love the most, but more importantly, you can express to other people, and it will be authentically you as opposed to your ability to patch together a bunch of external influences of marketing, create some sort of similarity to an artificial standard that you never opted into and you never asked for. So for all of these reasons, we're super proud to propose.
Here it is. I wish tripods were half cups. What's the photo there? What's the photo there?
Pictures, real pictures. We're not supposed to take our pictures, we're supposed to.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So when this debate is about gender self-expression and whether or not we want fashion and beauty to be a tool of it, then when team opening government is asked an alternative, they simply cannot go away by saying that things like personality and ideology should replace this. Because as this debate is about gender self-expression, which means if you are to give some sort of alternative, you have to say that your personality and your ideology should be the tool of your gender self-expression, not just universal self-expression and things like that. So that alternative does not work in their world. And secondly, even though you have established the fact that such trends and beauty are actually imposed upon people, this debate does not occur in that particular regard as well. Even though that principle is true, rather we believe that the more important thing is in which word we are more likely to remove the things like microaggression or other sorts of oppressions in the current community in the context of the 21st century. And we believe on that context, the opening opposition gives you a better word and better characterization. Two things I am going to take care of in my speech. First of all, I would like to talk about why having the capitalistic market on your side is really important for you or any sort of social justice movement to remove the stigma, as well as to make sure you don't suffer things like microaggression only because you are an oppressed minority within another oppressed minority. And secondly, I would like to talk about how the other forms of gender self-expression, that is to say ideology, or your career choices, or your personality, is even more harmful compared to like things like beauty or fashion. So let's talk about how the market mechanism actually works. We have already mentioned the fact that there is a new market based upon beauty and fashion standards of the LGBTQ community called the pink capitalism. But how pink capitalism emerged at the first place? When the LGBTQ community sent a really strong voice that we are a minority which is oppressed and now we want the same rights as the other traditional gender self-expressed people do. And when that particular movement started getting some sort of media traction and other source of support, only at that point in time pink capitalism emerged. Why this argument is so very important? Because now we live in the 21st century where the market also acts according to your own choices, not simply imposes choices based choices upon you, right? Why do they do that? For their own self-interest, that is to say, profit maximization. So for this, for maximizing their own profit, they need to sell and normalize you and your own choices towards the society. And how do they do this? First of all, they create icons and like idols from the community you particularly represent, right? Like in the 21st century, after the pink capitalism was emerged, later pink capitalism emerged, we have seen lots of trans, gay, and lesbian fashion icons. And these people are, and based upon those people's personality, the market in and of itself created a cult of personality and set a stronger rhetoric towards the society that right now these people should be normalized within the society. So bigotry is not a cool thing anymore. So how does that even extend towards a more tolerant society? First of all, they have to persuade you as a member from the oppressed minority to purchase their products, right? So on what sort of word they can persuade you to purchase their products? Well, they tell you that they are on their side, right? Which means the advertisement or the marketing campaigns are always going to be focused upon you and you getting your rights. Which means they are going to say, we have no issue with you being gay or lesbian or a member of the LGBTQ community or the queer community. You should come out of your shell and you should represent and express yourself in the society as the way you want, and we are going to assist you with that, right? And also, how marketing mechanism works in the 21st century on the broader scale. They have to create advertisement. And what sort of word their advertisement is going to be the most persuasive? Well, they can play the emotional card, right? That is to say, they have to create advertisement where a gay couple is holding their hands together and going to the like a chain shops of GFP or other sorts of fashion chains to purchase clothes for their babies, right? As a matter of fact, these advertisements are not only going to be seen by you, right? That is going to be seen by the other traditional people in the society, which means these people are more likely to accept you within the society even in a better way, because to those particular people, you are not something which is really strange and they have never seen in their life even before. This normalizing effect trickles down to having lesser microaggressions, because the society is far more tolerant when you are normalizing in the society, and the market has its own incentive to do so. So which means the minority rights movements gets a lot of media traction, as well as a strong ally to promote capitalism on their side that is going to do their job for themselves. Aaqib.
So, people of color, and especially trans people of color, the least purchasing power in the status quo compared to like wealthy white women and like white women in general. Don't you think these corporations will have far more incentive to cater to the more purchasing power, which is what we see in the status quo?
No, we don't think so. Because in many cases, LGBTQ community and their representatives have fewer purchasing power than the traditional gender people. So still pink capitalism emerges. And secondly, market has one beauty, that is to say they have to catch the volume as well, right? So even if your purchasing power is less, they have to produce such products that fit into your purchasing power so that you can come out of your share as well. Yes, because they have to tell the rest of the world for getting some sort of moral high ground that they are on their side. So I don't think that works. No, so the second issue. Why do we think ideologies and personality should not be tools of gender self-expression? You know what happens when personality becomes a tool of gender self-expression. At the corporate structure, it is an established rhetoric that only the male employees or the male managers are the one who should be allowed to yell at their subordinates. And on the other hand, the female employees always have to be meek and more understanding and considerable, and others the softer things to their subordinates, even though those subordinates have fucked the shit out of the corporation, right? Which is even more problematic, because on that word, your activities and your ideologies are even more dictated and even more imposed upon yourself. Because through the entire courses of history, humanity has this established pernicious rhetoric that women should always be on the weaker side and men should be on the stronger side, right? So when you judge that based upon personality and ideology, only a few types of personality and ideology you are able to subscribe to if you want to express your own gender. And also, last minute. And also, why do we think an inherent and stagnant wage gap between men and women for this very own rhetoric? Because there are specific career choices for men and women. Women should get jobs like becoming nurses nowadays men should become like top management level employees, and it's a common rhetoric that the job women do are less productive compared to the job men do. This is why even in the 21st century we are unable to remove the wage gap stagnation from the society. We believe that fashion and beauty have a normalizing effect on the society, which fits in really well to the context of the 21st century. That's how we believe we should buy.
Here.
We thank the regulator of this speech. Now move the debate to the lower house and call upon the member of Congress. Okay.
What's the audience? Right. साउंड का सब क्लोज होता है जो साउंड स्पीकर का सब क्लोज होता है
Look, can everyone hear me, right? All right. All right. 3, 2, 1. All right. Understand, in this debate we need to talk about why the standard of fashion beauty is the root of all gendered expression, not the other way around. The problem with O is that they assume that the reason why gendered expression exists is because men have been dominated by women throughout centuries, or women have been dominated by men throughout centuries, and for some reason, women, and for inherent reasons, are going to be valued less or are going to be subjugated. Understand? It's because the standard of beauty that you create and the concept of beauty that has been propagated through centuries is why women have been gendered and have been considered to be less than men. That's what CG is exclusively going to provide to you. But we are also going to break down their argumentation in terms of the pink tax and the pink capitalism that they try to provide to us before moving on to the extension. But first, the kind of pink capitalism that they will tell us. So they tell us that, look, LGBTQ asked for this market and the market is responding to it, and apparently fashion icons make it possible for LGBTQ to normalize themselves in society. Here's the problem. This rests on three crucial assumptions. The first assumption is this: the society's problem with LGBTQI plus people is that these people is that the way that these people dress, or the dress code that they conform under. Understand, the problem that society and normal people have with these individuals is not that they dress in a certain way or that they dress in a certain manner. It's because of the concept of the things that they do and their personal lives and the action that they take. Understand, society doesn't get normalized to them. They just don't throw bricks at them the moment of time that you go out in the store and buy these clothes, right? Or they don't look at them with disgust at a certain point of time. But the only thing the fashion industry has done is make these people looked at with less disgust, and that's not really a marginal benefit that we really see them winning out in this great buy. Second, understand, this really assumes that there was no other problem that led to the friction with other normal people. We just defined to you why they have a problem with the lifestyle and the things that these people believe in, and therefore the problem still exists. But lastly, this is the most crucial part. Understand, there will be no need for the fashion industry to respond to making the normalization as long as there was no standard initially set for the fashion and beauty industry as to what gendered expression is. Is that the idea wasn't that a woman should wear a different type of jean and a man should wear a different type of shirt. At that point of time, no gay person or no transgender person will have to conform to this sort of beauty, because then everyone will be free to wear everything, right? And therefore there will be no reason for them to have any sort of gender and for us to go through any sort of changing process to begin with. If all of this is true, then there is no reason for us to have this kind of debate whatsoever, because then their only benefit exists in a world where they have to assume this is true. But our problem is that we are trying to oppose this, and therefore this debate assumes that their world must not be true. But why is pink capitalism is still a bigger problem? Because understand this: pink capitalism means that even now women are going to have forced under the brunt of pink taxation, which essentially means every piece of clothing and garment that they actually own is cost far more than anything that a man will ever own. This period, my underwear costs $8, a woman's will cost $200, primarily because it's considered that these women, that this gender form expression is the reason why you can exploit these women, because these women are considered on your basis and considered at your mercy because of the fact that you have made sure that women are forced to buy into this rhetoric because the intense marketing and something explained quite well by OG. But here are the impacts of the entire OG analysis, right? Because the market that was created out of all of this means that the pink tax exploit these women, even these transgender individuals who have the lowest buying power, into making this kind of purchase decision. If the transgender individuals who are making this kind of purchase decision are forced into paying this pink taxation because the gendered expression that you're trying to create, then it's far more pernicious even if you try to reform this, right? Because it essentially means that you're still screwing these people over. Essentially, this means that their entire case is quite bad. Here we go on to the argument that wins this debate. Understand this is quite simple. The associations you make with the concept that you live by and believe in are the concepts and the associations that you impose on other people. What does this mean? This means the moment of time that you associate, look at beauty and you consider beauty to be soft. You consider beauty to be something that is to be something that comes in the form of something that needs protection, something that must not be destroyed because it is delicate. It requires some level of protection from other people who allow it not to be spoiled. Because understand this is the very concept behind which we oppress women by telling them they need to hide under the hijab, primarily because the point is that these women will be spoiled by the male gaze, that these women will be hurt or devalued in some way because their beauty will be destroyed the moment of time that you allow them to be spoiled. What does this lead to, right? It allows men to be considered as the protectors of these women because they need to be the protectors of this beauty and fashion. It allows men to be the gendered heroes who actually make sure that the beauty and the fashion industry must protect these women and must stop them from getting spoiled. This allows men to say that, look, you are delicate and therefore I must take care of you in order for your beauty not to get spoiled. And therefore, the standard of beauty as the set idea of gendered self-expression is so pernicious. Because understand, the moment of time that beauty becomes the standard of gendered self-expression, at that point of time, the problem becomes that every action that a woman takes is considered softer. What does this mean? This means you can justify women being paid less in the workplace primarily because of the fact that that men are inherently far greater value providers in society because men have been protecting women for so long and therefore their job has always required them to be paid more because they have to be the protectors of society for so long and therefore the beauty itself needs to be protected by them, which means men are inherently more capable than the women who cannot take care of themselves and therefore men must do it for them. That is the notion that you create when you have a gendered concept of self-expression. It's not just capitalism, right? Capitalism came much later. It's about the concept that has existed from millennia that women have been inferior to men not because of these people, not because of these women being lower in some inherent manner, but because you consider beauty to be something that's inherently less powerful, inherently less capable than someone who protects this beauty, primarily because this beauty is so much powerful. Before moving on, sir.
Most of the women that actually support this delicate view of femininity are also very empowered, badass women in their own lives. Think about Kylie Jenner, Kim Kardashian, all about women. Both of these entities can coexist, so say they cannot be sexist.
Yes, accusing people of being sexist is a very cool ploy nowadays, but understand why this is the problem, even if their argument refutation is that. Because even if there are women who choose to accept and empower themselves with this beauty, the vast majority of society still considers beauty in the same limelight because of the massive, powerful corporate machinery and advertising machine that goes behind making this the set norm for hundreds of years. Understand, women have just been standing up to wrest this situation back, but in a world where this concept didn't exist, these women wouldn't face the barriers of having to wrest this definition back. They would have the definition in the first place. They wouldn't have to define themselves as beautiful in a certain manner. They would not have to define beauty and rest by the definition of beauty. They would be able to buy into a concept of beauty and start it in the first place without having to consider it. This is why we tell you our explanation is far more important. Because even if there are women who are trying to wrest it back, understand that true set definition throughout all of society and human history has been beauty as being inferior and weaker. If that is true, any person who tries to take it back now has to fight against corporate machinery and years of established gender roles and established concepts of beauty. As long as that is true, any side in this house to provide to us why Team CG's extension of the ideals of beauty and ideals of beauty has eventually not existed in today's world. But this event is still a retrospective look back, not what these women can potentially do. Otherwise, this event wouldn't work. Thank you.
Here. Right, I can't hold the বসলে জাজরা মানে চলে আসে podium-এ
It's okay, but better you can just lean on the thing.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm going to
Can you guys hear me? What about now? I'm going to start my speech by breaking down the four flimsy arguments that first came from the upper side of this house, right? First, they talk about how we can do this because corporations are deciding it and it's technically not self-expression. See, everything in this world that people do are in some way or the other imposed by the society, right? When people propose each other with diamond rings, it was also something that was founded out by corporations because they wanted a money-making scheme. Doesn't mean that you can take away the right of a female who is very happy with that huge four-carat diamond ring that her husband is giving, right? So everything that people do are derived from the society. People don't live in a vacuum. Every method of expression in any regard, in any field of self-expression, is something that's derived from the society. The second flimsy argument that they come up with is how the concept of masculinity and femininity is toxic. No, what is toxic is people not having the agency to choose their role or choose or decide which part of masculinity or femininity they belong to, right? For example, a person who is gay is probably not despised by women wearing heels. They're despised by the fact that they don't live in a society where they have the agency to wear those heels. So the problem here isn't these identities of femininity and masculinity arising. The problem is people not having the agency to do that. The third flimsy argument that they come up with is about how we are going to be hijacking the crux of the movement. No, first of all, we're still in step one of the movement, where the mere fact that these people exist is an acknowledgement that we need to make. In order for this acknowledgement to come, people need to see them as the queer people that they are. Because in essence, they are not people just like us in our usual conventional method of sexuality. They are different from us, and that is something that people need to visibly see in order for those people to understand and acknowledge their presence. The second step would be to understand those nuances that comes once this acknowledgement stage is done. Now, doing something that is visible, doing something that makes a statement by aggressively coming forward with a visible and tangible aspect of your life is a powerful tool, and we believe that is the first step for a person to step up and be accepted in the society. Now, the other thing that they come up with, which is Aaqib Bhai's analysis about how they got, about her aunt was asking that because you're wearing nail polish, you also have to wear other things. See, this is a different kind of a problem. This kind of statement was probably made out of homophobia, not out of his individual will to tell him how to become a proper feminine person. These are two different things that media is trying to fight by trying to spread positivity about a person's own agency. And the most fatal error that they made in their entire case is their alternative, where they come up and suggest to us that personality is the most useful and the most beneficial way of self-expression. The reason this is the worst alternative ever is because when you are restricting it to personality, you're restricting it into something that is not flexible. For example, your personality is something that develops early on in your life, which means once you do develop that personality, it's very difficult to change it. Unlike fashion and unlike makeup and other external factors or external medium of expression that you can change on the go, which means our world gives you a less restrictive way of clothing. Now, what happens in the lower house? When they come up and talk to us about how, pink capitalism is bad and all that, the reason men do not wear those expensive clothes, the reason women do buy those $200 underwear and men stick to the $4 underwear is because they think they're too cool for it, and they think that it's a system that is associated with women. Ryan will probably not invest $100 on a shirt because he thinks he's an intellectual, and wearing something expensive is probably feminine, right? The moment we are glorifying these individual methods of expression as something that is okay, the moment we're validating these methods of expression that something is fair, that is when people become brave to celebrate their sexualities in ways that's more tangible. The other argument that they come up and talk to us about how women are delicate, which is why they get paid less in jobs. See, that is the problem. When you are resorting to your self-expression as personality, that is when women decide that they do not have enough negotiating power in order to actually ask for those pay raises. This isn't something that's limited to a woman's fashion choices. It's something that when in your world you resort to personality traits to define sexuality, where women are resorting to probably not talking as much. Upper.
Yeah. So Rayaan can get the exact same validation for $4 that you have to spend $300 for. How is that a good thing?
See, the reason people look down upon this sexuality is because women's sexuality is something that is looked down upon, which gets fixed in our world where these are normal things which people can do, where men are dressing like women, which means this is something that can also, that is also socially acceptable. Now, let's go to the crux of my arguments, right? See, I'm going to tell you two things. Why gendered self-expression is crucial to reflection of one's sexuality, and two, what are the modes of this expression and why our world gives you best possible mode. Now the first, in a society, people are always trying to impose different forms of identification to human beings, right? Now, when you do something visible, when you do something tangible, is when you are grasping your mode of self-expression, when you are, like choosing these tools that make that, where you can show the middle finger to the society and tell you that, what, I'm defining what I want to be. Now, the problem, like I said, isn't these media of self-expression. The problems aren't these modes, because these are good, empowering, and powerful. What is harmful? It is harmful when people are being stripped of their agency to resort to these methods of self-expression. When a Bangladeshi trans woman goes out on the street wearing a sari and lipstick, that is a clear marker that she is here out and about to make a change. It creates a statement that she is powerful and she is choosing her sexuality. The second argument that I'm going to go to is the different modes of self-expression. The first mode is scientific, which is basically dependent on your, like XY or XX chromosomes. Problematic. The second one is normative, where people define you by the actions you take, whether you fish and hunt or come home and rear your children, or whether your voice is loud, or whether you spread your legs or you keep them tight. Problematic. The third, and our world, the expression that we are going to be resorting to is the associative method, where material goods are a part of external, tangible self-expression. It's pretty clear why this is obviously the safest way of self-expression that's proposed in this house, right? So what I'm trying to say is that because it is crucial for a person to express his or her or their sexuality, and because there are only limited ways of doing this, our world gives you the safest and the most harmless way of expressing your sexuality, which is why we win.
Here.
I think the number of speech now make all one a bit for
আরেকটু জন্য ফোন হাত থেকে পড়ে যাচ্ছে। It's been an hour so.
Male privilege and sugar.
তো লাস্ট মিনিট তো সেই ছিল।
So we have seen arguments where Kylie Jenner was called a feminine, this role model who preaches femininity. But the thing is, why is she preaching femininity? And why have we said that these people are expected to be delicate and we want them to be delicate? That's because these women are not choosing this. These women are imposed, the society is imposing this on them. It's not that they want to be delicate. So if these women decide to be delicate, they're basically conforming to the one thing that is making them look weak. Because when we associate this delicacy or this beauty or this fashion with these women, we're actually associating a lot of other things with that as well. Pink and blue. Dolls and, racing cars. We see a lot of stereotypes in this. When we think of pink, we think of women, we think of softness, we think of delicacy, we think of loads of other things which we don't consider. We don't consider the bad parts of stereotyping these women and men in gendered sense of ways. Now, just because society has imposed something forever, like we have seen that forever these women are expected to be wearing female clothes or just identify themselves in a female sort of way. Just because it has been happening for so long doesn't make it any right. And when the rebuttal was said that other things are happening as well, society is imposing other things as well, corporations are imposing other things as well, which was the case of opposition. This doesn't make it right, and it's just work as a refutal, because just because something is happening somewhere else and which is bad, it doesn't make this right, it doesn't make it considerable. Now, lipstick and nail polish, the root problem in the lipstick and nail polish argument was called to be homophobia. But here, homophobia is seen as a feminine thing in Bangladesh. We see gay people and say that they're girly. We say a lot of things that associate with that. Is this seen as a bad thing or a good thing? No, it's seen as a weak thing. Why? Because we see females as weak. Why? Because there's a lot of stereotypes that are imposed on women by society. Now, the argument where women are wearing a $200 underwear because they think $4 underwear is too cool for them is wrong. Because deodorant is something everybody uses, but why is the average price of deodorant $9 in women's products, but men are buying it for $2? This is a statistic that women's products are more costly. Women's products are more costly and male products aren't. So what we see is corporations are actually imposing a lot of things. Big capitalization is not a good thing. Now, the transgender argument, when it was said that transgender women are making a statement by wearing a sari or dressing up feminine, why do they feel the need to, I will not take it, why do they feel the need to do that? Because they aren't being able to make any other statements. They aren't being able to say that I am a woman, and they aren't being accepted like that. The only way they're being accepted as a woman is if we associate themselves with these feminine clothing. These are the only things that are being done as statement. She can wear a t-shirt where it's written I am a woman, and that can work as a statement too. So materialistic statements are not the only thing we should be statements on. Wearing a sari is not the only way she can make a statement that she is a woman. The only reason why this is not the way to make a statement, no, this is the only way to make a statement. It's not the only way, because we are not normalizing clothing. Clothing can be normalized. If it's normalized, then we're taking out the gendered aspect of it. So a person who identifies as a girl but is a physical man from birth will be able to just say I am a woman, and that will be the only statement she will need to prove that she's a woman. So basically, they said that personality-wise self-expression would restrict you. I'd say materialistic self-expression would restrict you in a lot of other ways. If we remove the concept of gender self-expression, we are normalizing it much better, because everything is normal now. Everything is just a form of self-expression. A guy wearing makeup is a form of self-expression. It's not a gendered thing anymore. It's just a person showing his artistic side, which has nothing to do with society's standards on them. It has nothing to do with society associating a lot of negative characteristics, that is weakness or delicacy in women, which they do impose it on us. And in the agented people thing, we have to consider the fact that agented people are not normalized in this sense. If they don't want to consider themselves a gender here, what is happening is society is imposing that you have to dress up a gender a certain way. Even though there is a freedom of buying clothes, as mentioned by a lot of the people here, that there is a freedom of choice of buying, but society is still making you feel bad for it. Society does not accept the fact that you might be a guy wearing a girl dress up. Society will just see you as somebody wearing feminine clothing. And what is it doing? It is making that person feel bad. Why is it making that person feel bad? Because he is not being accepted. Because the only way he can make a statement is by wearing the clothes of the opposite gender who he is not born into. It's just making him feel worse. That the only way she can identify herself as a girl is just by dressing up the clothing of that gender he wasn't born into physically. This is very bad on the mentalities of these people,
on the mental self-health of the people. So, no. So basically, conforming to society's expectations is the main problem here. Because females are expected to conform, so they do conform. But this is the main broken concept we have to fix. If everybody here was just wearing clothes, they're just called clothes, they're not feminine clothes, they're not masculine clothes. If they were just wearing it, then there would be no associated negatives to begin with. A lot of the associated negatives, like people were talking about the bad ideologies, the bad expectations from the girls, everything's broken if we just see people here self-expressing them, just how they want to express them and not how they are expected to express themselves just because of the clothing they are wearing. Now they are justifying their behavior, by their personalities. Okay, that is okay, because now they are not expected to be feminine just because they are wearing a shari. It's not like that. They are speaking for themselves, not their clothes, not their anything else. So basically, our case makes it that if we do not gender these clothing, what happens is a male wearing a female clothing, a female wearing a male clothing, basically everything is normalized. The normalization problem that everybody brings up is gone because everything is normal. Everything is considered normal in this debate. So that is why we think that we go through with this case. Thank you.
Here, here. I gotta ask you a question after all of this.
Ready? Speaking to 7 male judges of the finals of BRAC journalists, let me point out a number of problems that exist on both of the sides of this house, right? First and foremost, an alternative model that I think both houses are going for is personality, which I probably instantly makes lower house completely dependent on upper house analysis, but let's ignore that for now because I'm very good friends with now. Personality is a very problematic aspect of this debate. See, the minute that you accept in our world that clothing and makeup and basically your external appearance is the way in which you mark gender identity, means that even if these structures are oppressive, it means that society is governing one aspect of your existence. However, the minute that personality characteristics like they would prefer is taken as a marker of gender and sexuality, it means that every aspect of your existence, internal and external, are governed by society. As you said, the way that you express yourself, the way you talk, how loud your voice is, how you put your feet up, please quiet down back there, how you express yourself. If you spread your legs like if you stand after night, the way that you wear your jacket, the way that you do everything is governed by society. Now that's insanely hard to take. Every second you have to be careful about acting masculine or feminine. One. Number two, you cannot necessarily control that. You just say, and this is analysis from Aaqib, they completely ignore. Your personality is often formed for you. That is, your early life experiences form your personality by the time you're an adult. It's insanely difficult for a person who is, say, an extrovert to channel themselves to become an introvert, or an introvert to become an extrovert, which means that these people are left trying to be someone that they're not, and struggling and feeling ashamed of who they are and the person that they are. They cannot change. Clothing is really easy to change. You go to a shop, buy clothes, put it on. Extremely easy process. But you know what? It's even more problematic. It's like they ignore it. It's because even if you change your personality mechanisms, it's not always noticeable. Trans people are always made to feel that their identity doesn't matter. They want something to take notice of the identity. Changing your personality traits isn't that easily tangible. If you raise the tone of your voice, people might not notice that. If you raise the way that you spread your legs on the bus, people might not notice that. You put on men's clothing, people notice that instantly. There is rebellion guaranteed to a statement made to you at that very instant. They cannot give us that personality traits and ideologies. Most people won't treat you business as associate you. They will see the clothing that you wear on the street. Even if you don't talk to people that you see on the streets, they see that you're a person who looks like a man but is wearing a shari, and they understand that your identity is going there. People in your world need to sit down and drink a cup of tea and have a distinct conversation about your views on gender politics, culture, and rebellion. In our world, rebellion is easy, accessible, convenient, and instantly done. The reason in our world is better is the same reason women cannot have better wages, because women in the personality traits are said that to be feminine, it means to be demure and shy. It's the reason why women feel ashamed to negotiate about the wages with their bosses when the male counterparts do this. This is the reason why personality traits are oppressive, because women are told this is how you behave as a woman. We tell you that fashion trends are changing, and they completely ignore it because they have no idea what fashion is now. I feel that you are a quite fashionable person, but you also know that out. See, most fashion icons now aren't just delicately reasonable to us. Most feminist icons now, Taylor Swift, Kylie Jenner, are pretty and badass at the same time. You don't know if you had any good taste in music. Understanding the gentleman. Delicacy doesn't exist in a vacuum. A woman can choose to be delicate and strong at the same time. She can look nice and pretty and big and strong at the same time. We give them the freedom of that choice. There's nothing wrong with that. On the issue of choice, another issue that sits in this debate. Every choice ever is absolutely engineered and made by social preference, so there is not really. You are there, actually.
I'd rather somebody sit down with me and talk to me and understand my personality than prejudge me on a bundle of issues based on how I saw me in the past.
Very good view. People don't care what you want, right? It's the issue of and this replies to Tasnima's point of why does a trans woman have to wear a shine. A trans woman is an oppressed member of a massive structure, and expecting these individual people who are oppressed and shunned and obliterated to change a massive system is oppressive and unfair. It's just the problems they face. If the system is rigged, these people have the right to operate within the system and find a convenient life and a good life for themselves. Putting this massive burden on this one individual actor is unfair and absolutely abhorrent. Doesn't stand in this house today. Finally, more important issues that we give to you. First is the massive problem-solution mismatch. See, something that they conveniently ignored is that men are oppressed by the media as well. The fact that me and Nawed feel that buying expensive shirts is bad is because media tells us what masculinity looks like. Women aren't unique in the fact that media generates interest. We are told to spend shit ton of money on beer and motorcycles, jeeps, and cars, and football jerseys, and footballs. These are our jewelry is cheap, but our replica football World Cup balls are 5,000 taka. It's because our tastes are engineered in a particular direction. Just because our tastes are in visual closest meaning capitalism has fucked us all over. As an IB student, I'm proud of how capitalism goes and how far capitalism will go. Men aren't unique in that regard. And this is the problem. It feeds on toxic masculinity. The fact that men don't buy these things is because not because pink shirts are feminine. It's because pink shirts are feminine and effeminacy is bad. It's because pink shirts are feminine and perfumes are feminine, and that is bad. There's a problem-solution mismatch. The problem isn't bad fashion. No more, you don't even exist in this city. The problem isn't to eradicate fashion. It's to eradicate the way that we look at fashion. And this happens better. And it's already happening. Fashion now is more body positive. Even Playboy has plus-size models. I know. I spend a lot of time on Playboy. And all of these things are constantly changing our body perceptions. We have fatter icons. We have trans icons. Everything is shifting. The fashion one is in the way that they're making it sound. But more problems in this debate, right? The issue of RuPaul's Drag Race that we talked about. These are the trans focus is on fashion and on the real identities. And they ignored the analysis from Adiba for centuries. We didn't care about trans identity at all. Which to say, the fact that we look at fashion now is a start. The media normal sensation, I can talk about the better things. You will never have media talking about the ideological discussion that Aaqib talks about, because it's sell tickets. The fact that you have fashion as a way in which a trans identity can express itself happens better in our world because the media systems are talking. If you gateway to the LGBT rights, you see RuPaul's Drag Race sensationalizes you, then you are interested in drag identity and you read more articles and you subscribe to Love Life with an Asian guy and you become social justice warrior. That's a process that happens. It's a system. You cannot rush the system as they want you to do. Find it on these issues in the genre is understand that in our world, if standards are set, it means that being able to break a standard gives you a weapon of expression. The existence of a standard is a chance to break it. In their world, where like this utopian world, right, where like there's no marker of gender and nobody knows who a guy is or who a guy isn't, it becomes impossible for a trans person to make their voices heard. In our world, for a trans woman born in a male's body, in a society where shies are taken as important of feminism, the person goes on a shy, and we know that who this person is, who this person wants. In summary, we're the only house that shows you how this standard can be used as a weapon of rebellion. It's easier and more convenient and accessible. And